Welcome to today's webinar presented by Cypher, How to Get Ahead in HR. It's great to have you with us today. I'm Catherine, I'm Head of Content here at Cypher, and joining me are three members of our lovely people team. We've got Gwennon, who's Head of People Operations. Hi, Gwennon.
Hi.
We've got Katie Allen, our People Business Partner. Hi, Katie, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you, Catherine?
Good, thank you. And we've got Zoe, our L&D Business Partner. Hi, Zoe, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Great. Thanks for joining us today to all our presenters. Thanks to everyone who's attending and saying hi in the chat. I see your names, what your name is and where you're coming from. That's great. Love to get you introducing yourselves in there. Today is going to be quite a free-flowing discussion. We'll touch on what we do here at Cypher at the start, just in case you haven't come across us before. And then I'm going to hand over to Gwennon, Katie and Zoe. They're going to talk about their career history so far. We're going to look at the benefits of taking formal qualifications versus on-the-job learning for people working in the people sphere, and look at common hurdles like working well with different stakeholders, building the right set of skills, creating your own personal brand, and also prioritizing your own learning and development, which we know can be really tricky for HR professionals. So we want this to be as interactive as possible. Please say hi in the chat and share any comments or thoughts and questions in there, either amongst yourselves or for our presenters today. We'll get back to those questions at the end. In case you haven't come across Cypher before, we're a leading people management solutions provider. We cover software, all different points of the employee lifecycle, from onboarding through to HR, payroll, recruitment, LMS, and also e-learning content. We won't be talking about all of those solutions today, but if you want to find out about any of those things, you can find us online at cypher.com, or you can email us at info@cypher.com, and our experts will be happy to take you through any of those products. And with that, I'm going to hand over to our presenters. Who's first? Who's leading? Take it away.
So I thought if you could just talk about your journey for us, Zoe, and then we can go to Katie, and then I'll give you my journey.
Sure, yeah. Oh gosh, getting to kick things off. Very exciting. So hi everyone. I've been at Cypher for about 2.5 years now, and I'm Learning and Development Business Partner here. I've been in the HR industry for around about 17, 18 years. My journey into HR has been pretty deliberate. Started off as an in-store trainer, got the opportunity, my first sort of retail job, who doesn't start off in retail or hospo, and then absolutely loved it. So went and studied HR at university part-time while working as an HR administrator. As you can probably tell by my accent, I'm from New Zealand originally, and I've had the opportunity to work in quite a wide variety of different industry sectors, which has been really great. It's sort of allowed me to try each one out, see sort of what's the right fit for me, what really works well with my strengths. I sort of started off as an HR generalist, so I've got a pretty broad grounding in HR, starting sort of HR administrator and working my way up has meant I've had the opportunity to get involved in lots of different projects and lots of different HR specialisms. More recently, I've specialised in recruitment, worked at John Lewis for 7 years, and then have moved into L&D, which is my one true love, now at Cypher. So that's been fun to kind of learn a couple of really good specialisms and get those under my belt. So yeah, that's been my journey so far. Over to you, Katie.
Lovely, thank you, Zoe. So hi everyone. Obviously, as Catherine introduced me, I'm Katie. I'm the People Business Partner here at Cypher. I've been here for about 18 months nearly now, which is just crazy. It's flown by. But my HR career has probably been about 5 years now. I actually trained to be a primary school teacher when I was at university in Nottingham. When people say, how did I go from primary school teaching to HR? It's looking after the little people, now the big people. But I left university and went into construction recruitment, which massively boosted my kind of confidence in people skills and everything. Following that, I did a bit of a stint in education recruitment, realized recruitment was not for me, and kind of went into thinking, oh, quite like bits of HR that linked to recruitment. So started studying for my level 5 CIPD, whilst working at a global financial company as their HR coordinator. That led me very nicely into becoming a HR advisor for their Middle East offices. So I got some amazing exposure to kind of different ways of working, different employment laws and everything. And from that, I became an advisor for companies working in cybersecurity, defense, and now here at Cypher, which is HR software company, as a business partner. So just, yes, my journey's been a little bit different, but yes, that's my journey into HR and everything. So moving on to Gwennon now.
Yeah, so I'm a bit of an unusual one. I started off in hospitality. The usual, you don't really end up thinking you're going to go into HR until you actually start doing it as part of your job. So I actually got the HR bug when I interned in a hotel in America for a year, and they put you through all of the different departments within the hotel. And the first one that I went to was personnel. You can tell how long ago it was. So it was called the personnel team. So I interned with them and then specialized with them at the end of the internship. So you went around all of the different departments and then specialized at the end. So I specialized in HR. So that's where I got the bug. I then obviously still started working within the hospitality industry and took on various management roles. And as is the want, nobody wants to do the HR job in a hotel. So I ended up doing most of the sort of HR type work, to then deliberately try to find myself a role, an entry level role within HR. Took a while, as it was in those days. It wasn't easy to get into HR at all. And then took a very, very low entry level doing personnel administration and payroll. So in the days where we used to do payroll by fax machine. So again, shows you how long ago it was. So yeah, I've been doing HR now for 25 years, and I studied doing my CIPD whilst I was working and renovating a house and bringing up young children. So a bit of a weird way of doing it. And I did it in the old style where before they had the levels. So you had to do it all in one stint, and it was sort of like took about 3 or 4 years to do all together. But again, working from home and going into a university once a month, and it was pre-internet, so lots and lots of workbooks and lots of tapes, listening to tapes and cassettes. So yeah, very, very interesting way of doing the CIPD. Loved to be able to do it now the way that everybody does it through webinar and internet and everything. So that, yeah, so I'm sure it's just as hard. And I've taken on various HR roles in my career, mostly all in the private sector and mostly in the property world. I spent about 20 odd years working in property and construction and surveying. So in that and sort of conveyancing property legals and things like that. So mostly in that area, and then moved over to Cypher, working as a consultant for a while. Decided to take myself off the tools of HR and came in because I'd worked with Cypher as a customer. So decided to come in as a consultant just to help with strategic HR consultancy with customers, and then missed the internal HR. So when they needed an internal HR person, I just jumped at the chance to be able to do that. So that's sort of my journey. Done various different levels within my career. So as I started off an administrator, and then worked myself up to advisor. I've had different titles like manager, business partner, senior business partner, heads of. So, you know, and as you probably, a lot of you know, those job titles are very fluid and they might mean different things in different businesses. So, you know, it's very difficult to explain to somebody what you do. It's more about what you do and rather than what your job title is, if that makes sense to anybody. So as you can see, most of us have all come from different journeys to get where we are, and we're all at different levels of our career at the moment. So if you've got any questions around how to get into HR or the best route that we've found, so obviously there is no one size fit all to get into HR or to get your knowledge. So you know, feel free to pick our brains at the question time at the end if you want advice about how to get into HR or how to get more experience or what qualification route to go through. So talking about the qualification route, Zoe, you actually came in a very very prescribed way. Prescribed is a deliberate way, didn't you?
Deliberately, yeah.
Yeah, you deliberately went, I am going to train in HR and do the sort of formal qualifications. Did you find, I mean, I found working in a HR environment while I was doing my CIPD helped me immensely, because it was putting that into content. So I don't know how you managed, but it does sound like you were doing a little bit of HR work on the side. It's that, you know, that pure educational route. Do you think that works, or do you think it's best to have that experience first?
Yeah, I think there's pros and cons of both, and I've kind of done a mix over my career. So obviously I started off at uni, so I actually started off doing a completely different degree and then decided HR was the one for me. So I started again. It's been a bit of a longer, it was like the longest bachelor's degree ever. But yeah, I did find it was helpful working part-time in HR while studying HR, because I felt like it gave me a bit of an edge as a student, because I could apply my knowledge straight away, and it took what maybe could have just been quite theoretical and gave me an extra sort of depth and richer understanding of what it was I was learning. I did do with my L&Ds, I did my level 5 CIPD in learning and development, and I actually did that before I was in L&D. I had a little bit, you know, I dabbled in L&D before, doing induction programs and that sort of thing, but no formal training. And I wasn't even actually in an HR role at that particular time when I was studying that. So that was quite a difference. I found that a little bit harder because I couldn't apply it as I was learning it. So it was hard to sort of really engage with it as deeply as I had done with my degree. And then obviously recently we've all just been through the business partnering course, and that was another experience of doing some on-the-job training before while I'm studying it, and then I could just bring it straight away into context, what I was learning. But it's a blend. There's pros and cons of both. Obviously, working and studying is very demanding, but it does mean you can apply the learning straight away.
Yeah, because when I did my hospitality, I actually did a HND. I haven't gone the degree route at all, so I don't have a formal degree. I did what's called a HND in hospitality management, and part of that was, you know, you did a piece around HR and people management, it was called in those days, and I actually found that module quite difficult, because I had, you know, at that time I was 20 years old, no experience of managing people, no experience of real work apart from working in restaurants and hotels where you might manage people but in a slightly different way, and I found that module quite difficult to do because you couldn't put it in practice. So I don't know if there's anybody on the call that's gone through that very formal HR degree without actually having any knowledge of HR first. I can imagine it's quite difficult, but I don't know about you, Katie, when you've done CIPD level 5, haven't you? But again, you've been working in that environment while you're doing it. Have you got any hints and tips for people that are doing it while they're working?
Yeah, I suppose when I decided to do my level 5, I was actually made redundant from a role, and I thought, oh, I don't want to do recruitment anymore. And I knew that parts of recruitment linked very closely to HR and everything. So I thought, oh, I've been made redundant. I'll have a bit of a career break. I'm still living at home with mum and dad, so I didn't have bills to pay and everything like that. But I was kind of like, oh, I'll have a career break, and then once I finish my level 5, I'll get a HR job. Within 9 days of being made redundant, I found my first HR job. So I actually wasn't planning on studying whilst working, but I did find that it helped massively with my confidence, I suppose is the best way to put it. And I think my number one thing has always been fake it till you make it, I suppose is the best way forward. And I think whilst working somewhere where you're not fully qualified in that area, it's kind of, they don't know that unless you tell them. They don't know that you're not fully qualified or whatever, you know. It's I think a lot about HR is transferable skills and everything. And from doing a degree in primary education, my teaching qualification, all that kind of stuff, working in so many different industries, like Zoe says about hospitality and obviously retail and stuff like that, those transferable skills while studying everything, that's what makes you kind of the HR professional that you are. It's not just about strict qualifications and things like that. But I suppose a big hint would just be, don't leave anything to the last minute. That's what I did whilst working full time. But I didn't fully. There was one thing that I forgot had to be done. And so at the end of my 2-year course, I was like, oh, there's a big module that I should have been doing the whole way through. So don't leave anything till the last minute. That's a big, especially when working full time, because it's like, oh, when can I fit in? I won't sleep for a week. So, but kind of similar to you, I had some hands-on experience and everything like that whilst before studying.
It can be a bit of chicken and egg though, can't it? Because lots of recruiters ask for or demand on paper an HR degree or a CIPD qualification. So sometimes you can feel, well, I definitely felt, even though I had an HR degree, it was a New Zealand degree and we don't have CIPD there. So I did feel a real pressure to tick the CIPD box and get one of those qualifications underneath my belt. And once I did, I felt like it opened up doors that I wasn't able to open earlier, which was really frustrating. There's pros and cons of both approaches, I think.
And I think also when I was looking for that, my first HR role, I do think it helped me along getting a job because it said currently studying, for that qualification. So very, similar, Zoe, in a sense of, well, I had the currently studying for CIPD qualification in my CV and in conversations I was having. So it did definitely help. But having hands-on and transferable skills, helped as well.
Yeah, I'm seeing so I'm getting distracted because there's loads of chat going on about people's way in, and it is as you can tell, it's like literally everybody comes at it at a different route. It is, some people have the experience but not the qualifications, and then when they're trying to move on, they struggle because they haven't got the qualifications, although they've got all that wealth of knowledge and experience. Some jobs still have that closed door policy of, oh, you haven't got the qualifications, therefore, it is difficult, isn't it? It's just you've got that experience, so why do you need that piece of paper that tells you you've got that experience? Your work knowledge and things should speak for itself, but it's that it's that having that proof that you have been able to show that you're at that level. It's it's a difficult one to know what to do. I'm similar to somebody else that's in the chat that said they started off with no experience whatsoever and no qualifications, and therefore they worked themselves up, and then when you get to wanting to do that next stage, you need that qualification, and so you need to find some way of doing the qualification. And there's a mixture of people that have done it online or part-time. So we are a mixed bunch in HR anyway, aren't we? It's interesting. It's nice to know that we're all different. But I still, when I'm recruiting myself, I don't look I do not look for a degree. I look for experience, and yes, some form of development, that they've done some form of development that means that they are committed, I suppose, is the way that I think. And it does give you that little bit of piece that that they know about employment law, they know that ACAS, you know the boundaries that you are going to be working with, because we obviously, HR is very it's very different for each different situation that we work in. You have to be able to be adaptable, you have to be able to pivot, you have to be able to change things and adapt to different people. So it's not black and white. It's yes, we need to know employment law, but there's lots of black and white in that employment law, and there's lots of black and white in ACAS guidance, and it is the way that you read it and the way that you take that information in and deal with it within your business. And so it is very, and depending on the level that you're trying to work at as well, makes a difference, I think. If you are working at advisory level, then you don't need that strategic learning. But if you want to be moving into that business partner role, then you need to be guided on what that means in that role, and sometimes that comes from doing a qualification or some sort of webinars or self learning is just you shouldn't sort of beat yourself up because you're doing self-learning and you haven't actually got that piece of paper that says you've done this particular qualification. I think
there's no substitute for real life experience, though, is there, Gwen? As you said, that's what you look for. And I think particularly when it comes to stakeholder management, I think as well, because it's one of the things you've just got to learn on the job. And it's such a key skill in HR.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so talking of stakeholder management, we obviously, I don't know about you, but I feel that everybody that we work with is one of our stakeholders. So that can be an ELT member, a C-suite member, but it can also be an employee, part-time employee, casual employee. So for me, the most important part of working with stakeholders is that building that relationship. And we all know that every single one of the stakeholders that we work with are all very different. They all have different ways that they like to work with. So I find that stakeholder management piece is the one that's the most crucial part to your role. It is what am I trying to say? It's down to us as a HR professional to sort of build that relationship with that stakeholder, and that stakeholder could be very, very different. So you need to adapt your ways of working to that stakeholder. So in the past, for example, I've worked with very, very different C-suite members. Some are very, very big picture thinking, but when it comes to you updating them, they just want the key bits of information. They don't want a story behind it. They don't want all of the information. They just want the summary of what's going on and what we need to do about it. Whereas I've worked with other stakeholders who want to know absolutely everything. They want to know all the details, how it happened in the first place, where we got where we are, what happened, who's doing what, and want the whole story. So I think you as a HR professional have to adapt the way that you work with each person that you work with. And building that relationship can take time, can't it?
Sorry, Gwen. I was going to say, I found, personality profiling models quite helpful for that, particularly when you don't know the stakeholder yet, or, you don't know them very well, or you're in the early stages, using sort of DISC models or different, whether it's Insights or any model that you use, it can help you proactively plan what is their likely preferred style, so you can go into it with a front foot, and then obviously find their nuances as you get to know them a bit better.
Absolutely agreed, because it's that it's setting those expectations, isn't it? And it's sort of like really early on in the sort of relationship building time. It's almost a bit like dating for the first time, isn't it? It's like getting to know them and setting your guidelines and your expectations. And it is sort of, this is how I like to work. Does that work with your style of working? Or how often do you want to meet? How do you want to be kept updated? Some people want to be kept updated immediately when something happens, and others would just prefer like once a week just to have a bit of a catch up. So it is very, very, it's like balance, because if you've got lots of stakeholders, it is balancing plates. Katie, you're quite early in your career of HR and stakeholder management, but how do you, what sort of skill, what do you draw from?
I think, well, Zoe and Gwen know me very well, and I can talk to a brick wall. But up until now, I've kind of, like I said earlier, you fake it till you make it. And I think until you have built that relationship, you come in with treating everyone the same, and then you kind of get to know that person to how they work. Like you say, Gwen, do you give them a full, book of an update, or do you bullet point it really, really short and sweet, 5-minute catch up? Here's where we are, or do they want to know the details? But that takes time. And I think that's something that stakeholders, whether that's senior stakeholders, whether that's people around the company, that's what they need to understand, is that you're never going to walk through the door and know exactly how that person works and how their brain works. You kind of have to, it is like dating. You get to know that person, you build it up and you go, okay, this is how we're going to work moving forward and everything like that. But my number one thing, you adapt things and everything like that. But like I said, my number one thing is fake it till you make it, be confident, go in there, be open to changing your style as well. Don't just go, oh, they need to change to fit me. You need to understand how they work and everything like that. But I suppose my number one thing, and from working closely with you, Gwen, and obviously with your years of experience and everything, you've worked in HR the longest, so I like to learn from you. But you're working with stakeholders. I suppose any top tips on tricky stakeholders, difficult stakeholders, how you get through that barrier, I suppose, on we struggling to work together and everything like that. What tips for us, I mean, for the audience?
It is that element of confidence, and it is that you've got to remember that you probably at the point that you're talking to them about anything to do with HR or people management or employment law or a restructure, at that point in time you are the expert. They've got their expertise in their field, but you are at that point, you are the expert. So it is pinching your phrase, Katie, fake it till you make it. If you're not, you will have that knowledge. It's whether you think it or not, you will have that. So you almost have to build that confidence, and you need to not assert, maybe is the wrong word, but at that point you are the person that has the knowledge, you are the person that has the control, and how you deal with that situation, they should mirror it. So if you start to act in a particular way, they might then start acting and behaving in the way that you're acting. So for example, I had a long time ago, so names will be protected and all of that, while I was working in the property industry, we acquired a business. It was a very successful business, but we brought along the previous owners along with it. And anybody that's gone through an merger and acquisition and brought along the previous owners, there is that element of, this is my business, I don't want you to ruin it, and this is how I've always done things. And it was in estate agency world, so you can imagine what the estate agency world is like if they are not in part of a big corporation. Lots of car park chats, lots of hiring and firing without any sort of thought about ACAS or any employment law. They would just have conversations. So the previous owner would still try and continue to work in that way, and it was really difficult to bring that person round to sort of go, right, you're now part of a bigger corporation, we have our policies, we have our procedures. You can't just pull somebody out into a car park and have a conversation with them and sack them on the spot. And it's very difficult to bring that person round. But all I did was spend time with them, went to see them in their environment, spent the day with them, and just got to know them and let them get to know me. So it's that be seen, be confident, then start to tell them and explain things to them in the way that they will gain that confidence that you do know what you're talking about. And it does take time, and this one manager, it did take probably about 3 to 6 months to actually get them to turn around. And the moment I knew I'd got it was when they turned around to me in a meeting and going, Gwen, and I was having a conversation with this person the other day, and I knew they weren't going to make it, and I was just about to fire them on the spot, and this little voice in my head said, no, go and speak to Gwen Ann first. So I thought, that's it, I've got them, I've done it. So it is that really working with that person, giving them the confidence that you do know what you're talking about, and not doing it in an obstructive way of going, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. It is that. Somebody mentions coaching in the chat a little earlier about how they want to be a coach, and a lot of HR is coaching. So you're talking to that manager going, do you think that might be the right way? Maybe there might be a different way that we can deal with this, so that it doesn't create such a risk to the business. And that's where you sometimes get senior managers, is talk about the risk to the business, talk to the monetary risk to the business. and reputational risk to the business. So quite often I will challenge a manager and say, if they want to do something in a particular way, and it's something that it's a way that we would not normally do it, and they are very, very particular in that they want to do it in that way, I'll go, right, okay, I will 100% support you, as long as you are confident that if you're sitting in front of a tribunal judge and you can explain to them that what you've done is fair and reasonable. And that sometimes will stop them in their track and go, oh, why would I have to sit in front of a tribunal? Goes, well, it's not my decision, it's your decision. I'm advising you. If you do something and it goes to a tribunal, you are the person that's going to be sitting in that chair explaining why we've gone down the route you've done it. And I think that's sometimes where managers will sometimes feel that's a HR's job, and that's where we have that that little note in there that says, we are here to advise and guide. We don't do the doing.
And I
the
think
final decision sits with them, doesn't it?
Yeah, for me, that was a really tough lesson, or something to get comfortable with, moving from kind of a coordinator administrator level up into an advisory business partner level, is actually that it's a two-way street, and effective contracting or setting healthy boundaries with your stakeholder, being confident enough to say, I'm going to work with you, but this is what I need from you. This is what I will do and what I won't do. And that's it takes quite a lot of confidence to step up into that, rather than providing a service, actually recontracting and setting the boundaries of that relationship as we're working in partnership, and not just doing things for you. For me, that was difficult to get comfortable with.
It's a hard one, isn't it?
It's easier, but it's really empowering once you've got it, but it's hard to
Yeah, and especially if you're a fixer like me, I almost want to fix things, and I almost want to do things for people. So I've had to, over my career, hold back that part of me, because most people go into HR because they want to help people, or they want they like working with people and they want to help people. But it is that you get to a particular point in your career where you cannot do everything, and that's why managers are managers and leaders are leaders. They are there to do, we're here to guide, keep them safe, keep them risk free, and not to actually do the doing. So my pet hate is to hear somebody say, oh, right, well, I've had this meeting now, I'm going to take all the notes away and send it to HR, and they'll decide what will happen. They'll decide what to do. And it's like, no, no. We're not deciding. We'll guide and advise, but we're not doing. So
skill to learn.
It's a skill to learn. It is a skill to learn. And that leads nicely onto skills for modern HR. So I suppose let's move on to the next slide. So I suppose the number one thing is that there are, there's many essential skills that I think a modern HR professional kind of requires, especially kind of takes a certain type of person to do HR, or certain types of HR, like being an employee relations specialist, which is kind of the field that is my passion at the moment. And when I got into HR, I did not think that employee relations would be my passion, but it definitely is now. But there are definitely soft and hard skills, like it says on the slides, for being a modern HR professional and everything. As like we've spoken about, it's not just about the qualifications, it's kind of a personality thing too, transferable skills from other industries and all that kind of stuff. But I suppose some of the soft skills that you would need to work in the modern world of HR is kind of being adaptable, empathetic. I love this kind of the phrase, being the calm in the storm, because, you're the constant in an ever-changing world. You're someone there that kind of keeps people, constant and everything, keeps people calm and stuff like that. But, having good time management, being organized, some things I'm not very good at, but you have other people that can help you with that as well. A good team to support you with being organized and everything. But having good interpersonal skills, like we say, confidence, and my number one quote, faking it till you make it. My body screams inside when I'm speaking in front of people, but externally, some people go, oh, you seem you're really calm and you can do that. Inside, I'm screaming. But, it's resolving conflicts like we've been speaking about, and negotiating and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so those are some soft skills. Anything else to add, guys? Zoe and Gwen, kind of around the soft skills and everything before we then talk about hard skills, I suppose.
To me, that it's that resilience piece. You know, you can know the book, you know all the rules, know all the sort of book knowledge, and have all of that knowledge in your head, and know theoretically how to do something. But we all know that when it comes to it, every case that you deal with are so different. None of them, you know, you'll suddenly start off with a disciplinary and it turns into a grievance, and then it turns into and it's that balancing plates again, as I was talking earlier. You're spinning different things, you've got lots of things going on, and if you haven't got that resilience, and you can't step away from it at the end of the day, then you can do it, but you cannot do it for a long time. It'll drain you if you take everything in, and you take everything on board and you take it home with you. Then it makes it a really difficult career if you take that all at home with you at the end of the day. So to me, it's not necessarily a skill that you can learn. It is something that you can develop, and you sort of harden yourselves over the years. And obviously I've been here a long time in this world, so it does I've definitely got better at that as I've got older. And it is, especially when you've got children and family, you need to give your time to your children and family at the end of the day, and you cannot take all of that work that you've been dealing with during the day back home, because it then leaks into family life and then becomes problematic. So
to me, links to having a good team as well. Sorry, Gwen, and having that team around you and everything, you can be so resilient, and you can or you can kind of not be as resilient as you normally would be. But if you have that team around you to go, oh, I just need to talk to someone about something that's happened at work before I take it home with me. It's and
if you haven't, because there's lots of people on this call that are probably standalone HR people, so that's where your network comes in. That's where people like us come in. So it is that definitely get yourself a mentor or a network of people that you can talk to, maybe just download. And it is because every situation that we deal with is different. So I'm constantly Googling things or asking questions of other people of, what have you done about this in the past? This is a really weird one for me. I've never had this one before. How have you dealt with it? So you need that ability to be able to talk to other people and get their ideas, because you can't do it in a silo. Even if you are forced to do it in a silo because you're working on your own, it is you need people around you, because who's HR for HR type of thing. Exactly. It's it needs to be us as a community. So Absolutely. So hard skills wise, we've put three things there, which the obvious: employment law. Some people might deal with payroll, some people might not deal with payroll at all. They might have a designated payroll person. And that very new one, data analytics, it's been rearing its head over the last sort of maybe 5, maybe a little bit longer years. I mean, Katie will know, and Zoe will probably know that I quite like my data, and I'm probably a little bit unusual in the HR world, where I actually love data and love a good spreadsheet and a good board pack. So it's obviously one of my strengths these days. Is more, I've moved away a lot more from the employee relations and leave that to Katie, and obviously Zoe deals with lots of the learning and development parts of the world that we deal with, but my bag is that data analytics. So it's definitely something that is required a lot more nowadays than ever.
And I think that's because it kind of, especially the employment law side of things, it's if you're up to date with UK employment laws or whatever area of the world you're in, it mitigates those legal risks. It stops you from putting your company reputation, everything like that at risk, and all that kind of stuff. And you know, with the like you say about data analytics, I do love a bit of data, but it's how I go ahead and use that. So that I love my employment law, my employee relations, and all that kind of stuff. But with the data, it then kind of moves into a more efficient and accurate way of kind of HR practice and stuff like that, because you have the data to prove what you're doing. You have the data to go, we're starting this project because we've seen X, Y, Z. So it's a modern way.
Gives you a lot more credibility, doesn't it? It really, really amplifies your voice when you can say, this is the data that backs up what I'm saying, or this is the research, and also helps you align, gives you credibility as a business partner as well. You know, when you're in that commercial mindset, you're talking their language, you're talking about metrics, and you can measure the value that you're adding then as well, which just, you know, if you can prove that that a project you landed or an initiative you landed had an impact, you have much more credibility and leverage for the next suggestion that's coming up the pipe. You can
that personal brand. It does. It builds on your you know, you have then got credibility, haven't you? You're not just saying, oh, we've made things much better in the business, and they're going, well, what have you done? What have you been doing this year? You know, is that you know, turnovers down, engagements up, you know, those sort of, that data can back you up, can't it? So yeah, it's really good for your internal brand, but it's really good for your external brand, isn't it? So if you are wanting to take that next step in your career, and that's not internally, it gives you that ability in your CV to say, I reduced turnover by this, I increased engagement by this, and you've got that data. So talking about brand, Zoe.
Did you have anything else to add on the hard skills, Katie? Are you okay?
No, I think that's kind of, we've touched base on everything. I think it's just the you know, HR is so different to how it was 20, 30 years ago. It's so different to how it was 10 years ago. You know, we spoke about soft and hard skills and everything, but it's an ever-changing world, and we just need to make sure that internal people, you know, you yourself need to keep up with evolving with the way the world's evolving, and, you know, becoming strategic in a way of aligning your kind of strategies to the business goals, but making sure you're up to date with an ever-changing world, which we're in. A massively changing world.
Definitely, that strategic thinking mindset is a definite key skill to have, isn't it? Keep the eye on the business rather than the situation that is
100%
absolutely in front of you. Right, but building your brand, and I think this is something that maybe feels uncomfortable and unnatural to HR people because of, as you said, Gwennon, we're the people who are here for the people. We're about helping other people, but it's really important as a professional, and to boost your professional skills and your credibility and your development, is actually to spend some time, make yourself look in the mirror, and think about, what do you stand for, what value can you bring. I love a bit of brand building. I've had to learn to love it. I used to hate it. It used to make me cringe horrifically, but it's definitely about thinking strategically. So taking some time out to stand back, see the wood for the trees, and think about, who are you? What do you stand for? What are your strengths? What brings you joy? What gives you energy? And what value can you add? So actually celebrate your success. I think so many of us are raised to think about, you know, what am I not good at? You know, what do I need to address? But actually, let's look at what our strengths are as well. Let's celebrate our uniqueness. There's definitely being strategic, being aware of what's going on in the business, look for opportunities, and look for projects that you can get involved in that are really going to showcase your strengths and skill sets. Don't be afraid to put your hand up and say, hey, I can absolutely add value to this, and here's why. I think definitely showcase that. An obvious one when you're building your brand is obviously building networks and maintaining the relationships. So definitely that stakeholder piece we were talking about earlier, you know, use your elevator pitch. Don't be afraid to repeat, you know, what value you are bringing to a relationship, and what you can learn from other people to sort of support your own development as well.
Agreed.
be strategic, I think, with who you spend your time with, or where you invest your time. What are you getting? We sort of talked about that boundary setting bit. It's not a one-way shop. We're not here to make everybody else look good and sacrifice ourselves in the process. Do think about, how can you leverage opportunities to spend a bit more time with people who align with your brand or can support your brand and can help you boost your profile and be an ambassador for you, I think, as well at the end of projects. And again, that data piece can help inform that.
Yeah, and that goes for the company you work for. You've got to, so for the job that we do, we've got to believe in the business, haven't we? You cannot do the work that we do without fully being on board with what the values and the mission of that business being. So if you do not believe in what the company you're working for is doing, then you're just basically fighting your own internal values at that point. So it's very, my biggest piece of advice to anybody is that make sure that you are in the right environment, that you're not working for a business that you don't agree with the values that they have, or just that it just don't align. It is, it's the new thing, isn't it, with people coming in, or where are we now? We Gen Z, the new yeah. So they specifically look for businesses that align with their values and will not work for a business that doesn't align with their values. And that will make a difference when you're trying to move on to a different role or into a different business, that you can, you've been fully behind that business and you understand where your values are. So I think that's also important. I mean, we're quite lucky in Cypher, aren't we? Because we have a marketing team that do a lot around getting PR and articles out. So we get a few mentions every now and again in articles, which builds our brand. So we're really, really lucky to have somebody internal like that. So if you do have internally in your business, you have a marketing team that publish articles or get information about articles that other people are writing that want quotes, really good way to get your name out there, get quotes out there. Obviously LinkedIn is a really good one, isn't it, Zoe, to sort of get your name out there. Sometimes they have little questions saying how would you deal with this, and then you become one of their experts. So there's different ways to get your name out there externally, but there's also building your brand internally, isn't there, Katie? You've obviously come into Cypher a few years ago, and you've definitely been building your brand as you've been with us for a while. So how did you do some of that?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think it's my personality trait of being able to talk to a brick wall. I think people just got to know me because I go around and I talk to people, and that may be about my sausage dog, that may be about HR, maybe about what's going on in the world, crisps. It could be about anything, but it's building your brand on a personal level as well as a professional level. I think that's so key into building those relationships and everything like that. And it's kind of getting involved in things that are going on in the world, getting involved in what's going on in the business. Is there an anchor day that I could join, so people can see that I'm here? I may not have a clue what they're talking about, but I'm here and I want to be involved in everything like that. So
it definitely takes self-awareness, I think. It's sort of being able to face yourself and embrace your strengths and also embrace your weaknesses or quirks. So I would describe myself as definitely someone who's quite unorthodox. I come at things from a really unusual perspective, thinking new ways to do things, kind of innovative. So actually working in a smaller company in a fast changing, innovative, software industry actually really works to my strengths. Whereas if you pop me into the public sector, probably going to be a bit of a square peg in a round hole, but you learn that from experience as well. And I think that's sometimes when you are early in your career, trying out a few different industries, when you're still getting to know yourself, still getting to know your strengths and weaknesses, I think it's, experiment, see what works well, what doesn't, what feels comfortable, what doesn't. Give yourself a little bit of stretch, but I think set yourself up to succeed is always a clever way of thinking.
Yeah.
I'm
a bit conscious of time, but Marta has just put a really interesting question in here, which is how do you build your brand now that we're all working hybrid? So we are mostly hybrid at Cypher, so we do Katie just mentioned their anchor days. So what those anchor days are is one day a month that a team will get together in the office. So most of the time they're remote, but they come into the office once a month, once a quarter, depending on the team. And that's when we can get involved. We can jump in and join those things, and it's that be seen and be confident piece, isn't it? It's Katie came to our anchor day and she had so much good information about what's going on in the rest of the business. And then that starts building up her brand. It builds up people's confidence in her as an expert. So if you don't have that ability to get together at particular points, we do like an annual conference. So again, we try and make sure that we get in front of the business at that point. So even if that is being on the registration desk, or whether it's actually having a little slot on any presentations that are going on, get involved, put your hands up, let people know that you're happy to get involved. And then obviously if you are completely fully remote, then just get yourself invited onto maybe Teams meetings that they have virtually. But also we use Teams quite a lot, or Viva Engage, where you're putting messages out to the business. Make sure that you're the person that's sending out those messages. It doesn't have to come from the CEO. It doesn't have to come from the CPO. It could come from somebody lower down in the HR world. So for example, sometimes we will put messages about people getting married, people having babies, and then that will come from us as an individual, and then people start going, oh, that's Katie, I remember Katie, and you get to be known within the business by going out there and putting messages on things, on notice boards and things like that. So that's one way of doing it, but it is that, don't wait to be invited to a meeting. Tell them you would like to come to their meeting, and then they'll go, oh, well, that's a really good idea, yeah, come along. I spent a lot of my career waiting to be invited to meetings, and it suddenly clicked, I'm not going to get invited, I need to invite myself. So that's the one tip I would give. I'm conscious of time, that we probably need to just go on to our next slide, which is just prioritizing your learning. Is so difficult because we are, we're on the tools constantly. It's a busy world in HR. And I must admit, in part of my career, I did not concentrate on my own development. I didn't give myself time to be able to just grow myself, and therefore I did become stagnant for a little while. For very different reasons. I was bringing up a family, renovating a home, doing lots of other things, so I didn't actually spend time on me and my career. And Zoe, I think you're quite deliberate in the way that you learn, and you make sure that you have time, don't you, in your life?
I try to.
Yeah. It's difficult. Yeah.
But you're right. It's always the first thing that I don't have time for is self-development, and I think that's the case with most HR professionals. Again, going back to the point, we're there for everybody else, and we forget about ourselves. But I think a clear sign for me when I need some development, it's definitely time, is if I feel myself getting frustrated in my role, or just feeling like there's some real blockers. Actually just being aware of that and going, okay, maybe there's a skill here, there's a skills gap I need to learn and address, and in one way or another, whether that's coaching, whether that's reaching out to my mentor, whether it's a hard skill that I need to actually go on a course to do, or do I need to reach out to my community and ask for some input and learn, adapt a bit of a broader mindset. Clearly I don't have the answer or the skill, which is why I'm getting frustrated. So for me, that's a really good thing to be aware of.
Yeah, it's that like they say on an airline, isn't it? look after yourself before you put your own mask on,
Yeah.
before you look after before you try and help somebody else. It is, you've got to prioritize yourself, because otherwise you can't grow, and therefore you're going to stagnate, and therefore find it difficult to help other people. What about you, Katie?
I was just going to say, I think, as I mentioned earlier, obviously, well, as we've all mentioned at some point during this last hour, that HR's ever changing. Like it says, nothing's static. You know, we are constantly changing. So therefore, even though we prioritize our people and everything like that, and we do forget out of ourselves, we have to put ourselves first. And I think that's the number one thing, is that we have to, you know, there needs to be a continuous improvement kind of culture that you create around yourself, linking to both what you say about, you know, putting yourself first. Don't just put the company first. You need to think about yourself, because then ultimately that kind of brings in you're supporting the business, because you're putting yourself first. You're learning about that new employment law change. You're learning about a new way of working and new data analytic tool or something like that, which then links into the company developing and growing as well.
And I found blocking of time in your diary, even if that is, you know, before your working day. So say we none of us are really 9 to 5, but you know, that 8:30 to 9 o'clock, it's that focus time or development time. Watch a webinar, read it on some articles, sign up for things that update you on employment law. Most solicitor firms have got something that you can sign up to that gives you data on upcoming legislation and things like that. ACAS also have lots and lots of things that you can get involved in. CIPD, obviously a wealth of knowledge. If you've got CIPD membership, there's loads and loads of articles in there that you can utilize as a member. So, you know, make the most of the people around you as well. So, you know, if you've got a network of people and you need to know something about a different, you know, a new policy that you've got to do, go out and ask your network what they've been doing. And that is development. Even though you're doing your work, you're still developing, because you're learning a new skill. You're learning something new that you haven't done before. So you know, you're constantly learning. You probably just don't know that you're doing it, but you do need to map out that time for you and give yourselves objectives. So one of the things that we do in Cypher is that I definitely do it within my team, is I make sure that each of my team members have a personal objective that they want to do to develop themselves this year, and we hold ourselves accountable. If you write it down, you are more likely to achieve something, because you've written it down and made a conscious effort to write it down. So that'd be my tip, is just to give yourself one challenge. If that's a monthly challenge, weekly challenge, yearly challenge, whatever, it doesn't matter. You've done something to grow and to build. Because if you don't set yourself that target, or you don't write it down, or you don't timetable it, it won't happen, because we get so busy. Yeah,
I agree.
So we're obviously running really out of time, which is typical for us. We all talk, and we can talk probably another hour. But just to recap, you know, there is no one size fit all in HR. We're all different. We all bring different skill sets, and the only way that we can build and grow is to just work on those relationships, build communities, build networks. Absolutely, the one thing that we've never been very good at, which we're definitely more, and I definitely think since COVID, is that we're more visible now. You know, people do realise that we do provide a really good service to the business, and without us, they would struggle. So make sure you're visible, make sure you're being heard, make sure you're being seen. Articulate a brand. You know, you are unique, and if you are the sole HR person in your business, you are definitely unique. You know, you are the subject matter expert in that business. So work on that, build that brand, and let people know what you're doing. And then build professional qualifications and on the job training. You know, definitely just keep yourself up to date as much as you possibly can, because over my 25 years, in more than 25 years actually, I've had to develop and adapt, because the world that I joined is definitely not the world I'm in now. It's very, very different, and you have to adapt and evolve and just have that future plan. Think about where you want to be and how you want to get there, and then work with people that if you've got a skills gap, work with people that will be able to fill that gap for you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Do you agree with that, Zoe?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's hit the nail on the head with all of those recap points, definitely.
Good. So obviously we might be running out a little bit of time. I mean, I'm okay for time, but Catherine, you probably will come and tell us off for taking too long.
Maybe we could have 5 more minutes. If anyone has any specific questions for Gwen and Katie or Zoe, please drop them in on the chat. I think there's been a lot of self-help in the chat, which is great. Lots of people solving each other's problems and comments, which is awesome, because that's one of the things about bringing communities together, and communities of HR people do find you are generally really helpful folk, and lots of great tips on there, which is like following specific employment groups, joining HR groups on LinkedIn. I mean, I'm not a HR professional, but I know I get a lot of support from industry specific HR or like LinkedIn or Facebook groups. You can kind of find your tribe in that. Whatever stage of your career you are in, it's about finding those people, particularly if you might be a lone HR person. That can be really difficult. Like our team,
it is a lonely world
large
out there if you're on your own.
Also on that, Catherine, there's loads of HR groups specifically for, you know, around employment law, all that kind of stuff. But then there's also, I'm part of one that's called the HR Sanctuary, and it's, you go in there and it's kind of like a safe space for those people that, you know, obviously not confidential stuff, but you can go in there and you can talk to them about situations you're in, and it's not just about employment law and what do I do about this situation I'm in. It's, can I just talk to someone, please can someone just talk to me, I'm struggling. So those are really good, as well as just not just sector specific kind of things, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a great thing to flag, Katie. I mean, the only thing I can relate to, I'm in a mums in marketing group on Facebook, because that's my industry, and the Q&A is everything there from how does this service work to where should I go on holiday. So you will find your tribe somewhere out there online. You just need to look for it. I don't think there's any specific questions. I think we've kind of covered quite a lot of ground. We're all very findable on LinkedIn. If you want to come and find Gwen and Katie, Zoe, or myself, or Cypher, you'll find us on LinkedIn. Do drop us a connection request and say hi. Or if you want any more information about Cypher, you can visit our website. All of this has been recorded and we'll be emailing that to you later today. There's an exit form at the end of this broadcast. Just share a little bit of feedback if you have any about the broadcast. It just helps us do better next time. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Katie, Zoe, Gwenan, for sharing all of your expertise and all the hard work and prep I know you've put into this. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And we hope you have a great rest of your day, and then we'll see you again soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.